The virtual Wall of Honor and Remembrance can also be viewed on the Legion's website as we share this special tribute with people across the country. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Dans une demi-heure, la Direction nationale de la Légion royale canadienne sera fière de présenter la cérémonie nationale du jour du souvenir, et ce, au nom de tous les Canadiens et Canadiennes. Sur cette journée de réflexion, les Canadiens s'arrêtent pour se souvenir de nos soldats tombés au champ d'honneur, leur rendre hommage et leur dire merci. Nous apprécions votre présence ici ce matin. Afin d'inviter tous les Canadiens de toutes régions du pays à rendre hommage aux parents et amis qui ont servi le Canada, la Légion a créé le mur virtuel d'honneur et du souvenir. Plus de 2400 photos ont été reçues par famille et amis et insérées dans la présentation émouvante que vous voyez maintenant sur les grands écrans vidéo autour de nous. Les gens peuvent aussi accéder au mur virtuel d'honneur et du souvenir sur le site web de la Légion et voir cette collection toute spéciale. À bientôt.
Really appreciate it.
Moi, je reste debout parce que c'est plus chaud debout qu'assis. Tu sais, ça me...
Do it. Is one of the past BCDS. He's he's not the president. He's the president of the. And Nujma is right on the right.
Up in the northwest.
Nujma is talking to them right now. There's a man blocking. Do you want to speak to Nujma quickly? Okay, 1 second. Okay.
And at about 4:30 in the morning.
I'll be fine.
That's so
Yeah.
nice. So, well, I'd be interested to hear what you think of after the ceremony and what are you going to do in the afternoon tonight?
I have a nephew that lives here, him and his whole family,
Yes.
and we're going over to his place and having a real banquet.
Really good.
Actually, we're going to a restaurant, but that's okay.
Yeah.
12 of us.
It's going to be good. Any
Yes.
kind of banquet, right?
Yeah, well, whatever, it'd be a big meal with the whole family.
Yes, that'll be exciting.
Yes,
And we have tickets tomorrow for the museum.
Oh, that'll be nice. You were saying that. That's right.
yes, yeah, we're going to the museum tomorrow.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your service also.
I only bought 2 tickets to the museum because the way I understood it on the website is he goes in free and I go with him.
Yeah.
So I
He's
bought
free.
2 tickets for my cousin.
You haven't changed a bit. Oh my.
You wave? You wave.
One's enough.
Tallest on the right, shortest on the left. Three ranks. Yeah, he needs to see.
C'est des déformations professionnelles. Ah non, le même que les fois que tout à l'heure. J'aimais pas ça. Mais c'est certain que le monde voit que je fais ça.
By remembering on Remembrance Day, we honor those who gave their lives to serve our country. By remembering, we pay tribute to members of the Canadian Armed Forces.
Award! Turn! Again, press on 10! Up! Sous arm, ramasser, hit ball! Play!
5-minute warning. We're leaving in about 5. That's a given. You don't look like you're hurrying for anything.
Of course. And are they going to Mexico too, or no?
This is a Global News special presentation.
Good morning. This is the National War Memorial in Ottawa. On this overcast Tuesday, a light dusting of snow in Ottawa. Veterans and their families, serving members of the military along with members of the public, are gathering for today's National Remembrance Day ceremony. It is all centered around the War Memorial in Ottawa, which was first unveiled back in 1939. It was originally to honor the sacrifice of those who fought in the First World War, and it was on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month that the guns fell silent in that war, and that is why we have this act of remembrance on November 11th every year. Now, the National War Memorial honors all of those who have served over the years, and this year marks 80 years since the end of the Second World War, a war that, of course, reshaped the world and took the lives of more than 44,000 Canadians. Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Donna Friesen. We're bringing you live coverage of the National Remembrance Service, which will start in about half an hour from now. Canadians, of course, will also be gathering at cenotaphs and memorials across this country to honor all of those who have served and sacrificed. November 11th is also a time to pay tribute to all those military families who bear the burden of loss. A little earlier this morning, not far from the National War Memorial in Ottawa, there was another ceremony at the National Aboriginal Veterans Monument. This is a ceremony to honor the thousands of Inuit, Métis, and First Nations veterans who served with honor and distinction in war and on peacekeeping missions. For many decades, Indigenous veterans didn't receive any recognition. Their critical contributions were ignored, and for a long time, they weren't even allowed to play a role on Remembrance Day.
This was always another opportunity to recognize the sacrifice our Indigenous veterans have made. And like I mentioned, the fact that they didn't get the recognition they deserved. The fact that I can wear my hair long is a tribute to what was taken from them. So I owe a great debt to all of them.
The Arctic is this less and less ice. Multi-year ice that used to come down up in Arctic, high Arctic, and there's more and more ships going through. That's a concern to a lot of Northerners.
With this year, with the events that are going on, I believe the Canadian patriotism is really lit up. So it's quite nice to see. But even in the last, say, 10 years or so, you know, when you go to a Remembrance Day service and they march off the troops and people are applauding, that's very heartwarming.
Those some of the voices from people who attended the ceremony at the National Aboriginal Veterans Monument a little earlier this morning. With me now, as he has been for many years on this day, is Dean Oliver. Dean is Director of Museum Services at Know History. It's an organization that specializes in historical research across Canada. Good morning, Dean.
Good morning, Donna.
As we watch the veterans gather in Ottawa, we're told there will be some dressed in period uniforms today that date back to the Second World War. 2025 is the anniversary of the end of that war. Dean, can you talk to us about what happened in the lead up to the end of the Second World War, how Canadian forces were punching above their weight on the world stage?
It was a very complicated ending of the war on many fronts, and in the rearview mirror it looked as though perhaps the Germans were closer to being beaten than they proved to be. But from 1945 began, of course, with Canadians fighting everywhere in the hundreds of thousands, in the middle and into the north of Italy, in Belgium and the Netherlands, in the Pacific, in the air over Northwest Europe, the English Channel. And by that time, there was a 1st Canadian Army with about 250,000 Canadian, British, and other soldiers under command. Those are the forces which we see often commemorated as the liberators of the Netherlands in the spring of 1945, but they were active on many other fronts as well. And of course, the war ends in stages. The surrenders in Europe beginning in early May of 1945, but then Canadians beginning to reposition themselves for the fight to come in the Pacific, which itself doesn't end until early August of 1945, and then all of those soldiers, sailors, and flyers have to come home. And the date of August the 9th is significant as the dropping of the second atom bomb in the Pacific War, but it's also the day on which a young man named Hampton Gray wins the Victoria Cross for Canada, flying an aircraft off a British aircraft carrier in over a Japanese naval installation. He's not awarded his VC until posthumously in November of 1945, by which time Canadians like him, had he lived, were well on the way to coming home. So it ends in stages all all over the world, and all of those Canadians that have been mobilizing for 6 years need to come back.
Yeah, 80 years ago seems a long time, and yet it's so important to remember the huge shift that took place. The fighting ended, as you said, and there was this shift in the world, in this country too, as Canadians came home, which was, I believe, the largest movement of people in Canadian history. Soldiers needed to find a place in civilian life. Can you tell us about the magnitude and the challenge of all of that?
Yes, it was massive, the largest deliberate movement of population in Canadian history. The numbers, grossly the numbers are about 1.1 million enlistees during World War II, and about 600,000 of those, plus or minus a few, in addition to war brides and war spouses and children of same, need to come home at the end of the war. And of course, while the buildup occurred over 6 years, everybody wants to come home quickly at the end, and everybody who loves them wants them home quickly as well. But there were all kinds of challenges to be faced, not the least was the continuation of the war in the Pacific and the need to ship soldiers, particularly American soldiers, over there, and the fact that there weren't very many ships that could carry them back. There's also the fact that, of course, we had the First World War experience when veterans' benefits were not particularly great for the time, but not particularly great. There was a housing crisis and many other economic challenges that also led to the Great Depression. And so there's a sense at home, in many cases from quite local organizations like veterans groups and spousal groups and labor unions and towns, that we need to do better in 1945 than we had in 1918, 1919. And so the entire organization of government changes in that period. And for the first time really in Canada, we're still living in this world. We create the modern bureaucratic state and what euphemistically I suppose we'd call the social welfare system. And in veterans terms, the principal document is a consolidated one called the Veterans Charter, which has been updated several times since, but it was an absolutely extraordinary set of policies for its time, even though flawed, and even though some people were left out and had to fight for admission to those benefits later. In 1945, it was and remains extraordinary.
All right, Dean Oliver, thank you for that history. And as we watch people gather for the service, which will begin in about 20 minutes from now at the National War Memorial, our chief political correspondent, David Aiken, is outside near that memorial. David, as each year passes, we lose more of the living witnesses to the Second World War, at the same time as the government has pledged to make the biggest investment in Canada's military since the Second World War. It feels like an important a time as ever to be reminded about the price of war.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Donna, and good morning. There is a hinge moment about to happen. That's the favorite phrase of the Prime Minister Mark Carney, who will be arriving here very shortly. It's a hinge moment in the armed forces. There is billions set aside to buy equipment, but more importantly, for pay raises for many of our current service men and women. I was with the Prime Minister when he was in Latvia earlier this year to visit Canadian service members that are on a NATO mission there, and that raise had just been announced, and he was pretty thrilled about it, I can tell you that. He was thrilled. The serving men and women were pretty thrilled that they're getting a raise. But there's also going to be investments in housing, investments in infrastructure on bases here to help not only serving men and women, but also their families.
Earlier this morning. David, you had a chance to speak with the Chief of the Defence Staff a little bit earlier this morning?
Yes, General Jenny Carignan, this is her second year at this particular ceremony as the Chief of Defence Staff, and we talked about some of the issues facing the military under her command. General, thank you so much for joining us today. It's your second year as CDS at this particular ceremony, former combat engineer, and I wanted to ask you, as you bow your head to remember today, what will be some of the things going through your head?
Well, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here, and of course it's always a great honor to have the opportunity to be part of this ceremony. And then for me it's a very special day, a day of remembrance, and it covers past, present and future, and again is so meaningful for all of Canadians, this particular Remembrance Day.
The CAF, of course, has had problems with recruitment for ages and ages, and you've come up with what sounds like a unique solution, and that is to ask some of our civil servants to volunteer for a week of training with a weapon, and maybe learn how to use a drone, drive a truck, and I wonder how that initiative was going. This is to help with the supplemental reserves, I understand.
So this is not quite how it was actually approached. So I understand there's been a lot said in the last few weeks, but this is really part of our efforts in transformation, and it is part of growing our reserve force, both from a primary reserve perspective and also from a supplementary reserve, so that we have again access to many Canadians in times of crisis, and it can be here domestically for various, as we know, a lot of climate events are happening. So again, so many different ways of looking at this, but it's actually welcoming Canadians to be part of their own security and sovereignty.
And I'd like to pick up on that because, of course, the regular forces, we certainly need some more regular forces. And as you speak to young men and young women, what's the pitch you make to say you're going to have a great life in the Army, the Air Force, or the Navy? What's your pitch to young people?
I think it's about understanding the meaning of service and then what it means to be part of the Canadian Armed Forces. It's about awareness. We have over 100 different type of trades and careers in the military. That covers, the world in terms of participation. Such an honorable role to play for our country, and again something important to do. So this is kind of how people can make their own choice as to where they want to contribute, and so many opportunities in the military to do that.
Well, General Carignan, thank you for your service, and best on Remembrance Day.
Thank you very much.
And General Carignan is among the VIPs, of course, here. And one VIP, Donna, that is missing today, the Governor General. Mary Simon is suffering from a respiratory illness. Her office says she's improving, but she's 78 years old, and it's not the weather to be out if you've got a chest infection and you're 78. So her role today, and of course the Governor General is our Commander-in-Chief, her role today will be played by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Richard Wagner, and we'll see those VIPs arriving any minute now.
Okay, David Aiken, thank you. You are watching live coverage of the Remembrance Day service from the National War Memorial in Ottawa. Our parliamentary reporter Mackenzie Gray is also at the ceremony there this morning. Good morning, Mackenzie.
Hi, Donna. There's thousands of folks out here outside the War Memorial. We're on Elgin Street right here. Thousands of people have lined up. You can get an early spot if you come close to the barrier, but there's lots of people who've come up along the flags over here, and we've been chatting with some folks who were in the crowd here today. We found 3 University of Ottawa students, Donna. Joy, Vishna, Liliana. Ladies, how early did you get here to get your good spot?
We got here at 8:30 this morning.
This is your first time here at the Remembrance Day ceremony. Why was it important for you guys to come out?
Well, I think, first of all, just to pay our respects. I mean, as the statement goes, lest we not forget. So I think it's important, especially nowadays, to just make sure that we're paying our respects, we're remembering everything that they've sacrificed and continue to sacrifice today.
Is there anyone that you guys are remembering today in your family or folks that you're thinking about when the ceremony will be on?
Yeah, my great-grandfather was a World War II veteran for Canada, so I think of people like him as well as all the others who sacrificed their lives for our country, and it's really important for us to be here and think about that today. And especially us now being in Ottawa, we thought we may as well come to the ceremony considering how big it is and how great it is, since none of us are from here.
Yeah.
So it's the kind of thing that you guys have seen on TV before and felt really important to come and pay your respects for, right?
Yeah, so all of us live relatively close to Toronto, and Toronto we have Remembrance Day ceremonies, but it is never as large of a scale as it is in Ottawa, so it's only something that we've ever really heard of before dreaming about coming to U Ottawa to study. So being here is truly like just a reality for us, and it's great that we get to celebrate this day with everyone, and it just honestly builds a better sense of community.
Awesome, ladies. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it today. Donna, there's still thousands of people streaming in on Elgin Street right here, up on Rideau Street with the ceremony just a couple minutes away.
So good to see so many young people there. Mackenzie Gray, thank you. Each November, No Stone Left Alone ceremonies are held across this country to remember those who lost their lives serving in Canada's military. Earlier this month in Burnaby, BC, young cadets, veterans, and local Canadian Armed Forces members placed poppies on military headstones at Forest Lawn Memorial Park Cemetery.
This service helps us remind our young members of the services that our veterans did for our country, and to remember them. This year we're marking 80 years of the end of the Second World War, so it's very important for our young members to remember the service and sacrifice that our members did for our country.
In Winnipeg, more than 500 grade 6 students took part in a ceremony taking learning beyond the walls of the classroom as they heard directly from veterans about the sacrifices made for this country. In Burlington, Ontario last week, a group of high school students joined cadets and members of the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry. The No Stone Left Alone Memorial Foundation is dedicated to ensuring students and young people across Canada have knowledge, understanding, and appreciation of those who serve and of the sacrifice of Canada's fallen. We are watching the live coverage of the National War Memorial Remembrance Day service, and there you see, pardon me, the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, arriving for the ceremony. This is Mark Carney's first Remembrance Day as Prime Minister. He has made investing in and modernizing the military a top priority for his government to improve its readiness and reduce Canada's dependence on the U.S. He is joined this morning by his wife, Diana Fox Carney. He put out a statement earlier today saying, in an increasingly dangerous and divided world, remembrance is also vigilance. He says our sovereignty and our security and those of our allies are not guaranteed. And today we pause to remember those acts of heroic service. We remember that our rights, our freedoms, our way of life were fought for and were won by Canadians who answer the call. We're also waiting for the Silver Cross Mother to arrive. She will be arriving shortly. Every November, the Canadian Legion chooses a Silver Cross Mother to represent all mothers who have lost a child in military service. This year, it is Nancy Payne. She's from Lansdowne, Ontario. She lost her son, Corporal Randy Payne, in Afghanistan in 2006. I had the honor of meeting her last week. This Veterans Memorial near her home is a place of solace for Nancy Payne. Her son's name is etched on a bench here. Does it help to come to a place like this? I used to come just about every day at first and just sit on the bench and just talk to him. He was on his first tour of duty in Afghanistan. Aged 32, Corporal Randy Payne trained with the military police and was serving with a close protection unit assigned to protect VIPs. The vehicle he was in hit a roadside bomb, killing him and 3 other Canadian soldiers. I got a phone call about 3 or 3:30 in the morning. And I just kept saying, oh, my Randy, my Randy, my Randy. Born on a base in Germany, Randy was raised in the military. His father and brother both served too. You were there when he got the phone call to say he was going to be posted to Afghanistan. Exactly, yes. And he was so happy about it and up for it, and I'm thinking, oh, but I had to be happy for him. And she was there the day he flew out. How did you feel? Well, I never dreamt it would be the last time I'd see him. The church couldn't hold all the mourners at Randy's funeral. He left behind his wife, his daughter, and son, who at age 7 read a poem at his father's funeral. When we see only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. So this was 2006. Mm-hmm. We're now in 2025. Does it get any easier? No. People think it would, but he's with us every day, you know, sometimes I'll hear somebody giggle or laugh, or sometimes I feel, you know, somebody playing with my hair, just little things like that. But I'm sure he hears me talking right now, and oh, Mom. Her son is one of 158 Canadian Armed Forces members who died in Afghanistan. Do you feel, in retrospectively, like it was worth it? Personally, I don't. I don't see any good, really, outcome from it. That's just my view. That's in Trenton when they were just waiting for the plane to load. She's left with memories. A mother, she says, never forgets. And is there something about seeing his name that keeps, and saying his name,
that keeps his memory alive
Yes,
for you?
yes. And I think that's why I speak a lot at functions, just to keep that memory alive. We can't forget them.
It was such a pleasure to meet Nancy Payne, the Silver Cross mother. She has now arrived at the ceremony. She was hoped to be joined by her husband, Dave, who had served for 30 years in the Canadian Armed Forces. He's not feeling well and was unable to make it. Nancy herself said she was a bit nervous for this day, understandably, but she said that she's doing it for her son, Randy, and for all the mothers and families who have lost children serving in the military. She will be laying a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier a little bit later. The Governor General is the Commander-in-Chief of the military and usually attends this service, of course. We've seen Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Mary Simon, before at Remembrance Day services. As David mentioned, she's unable to make it today. She is in the hospital recovering from a respiratory virus. Her office says she is doing well, but as a result of that, or her absence, is going to be filled by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who acts as Deputy Governor General. And today, Richard Wagner is going to be here. He will also be one of the many people who will be laying wreaths at the cenotaph, in his case, on behalf of the Governor General.
On behalf of the Governor General of Canada, the Right Honourable Richard Wagner, Deputy of the Governor General and Chief Justice of Canada. Mesdames et Messieurs, au nom de la Gouverneure Générale
Ladies
du
and
Canada,
gentlemen,
le très
arriving now on
honorable
behalf of the Governor General of Canada, the Right Honourable Richard Wagner, Deputy of the Governor General and Justice in Chief of Canada.
Watch the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court arrive. Let's go to David Akin, who's there in the crowd. David, not only is this Prime Minister Mark Carney's first Remembrance Day as Prime Minister, this is the first ceremony for the country's Veterans Affairs Minister, Jill McKnight, and she has a lot on her plate. You had a chance to speak with her.
That's right. Jill McKnight is the Liberal MP for the Vancouver area riding of Delta, and she was tapped to be the Prime Minister's Veterans Affairs Minister. And here's my conversation from just a few minutes ago. Well, Minister, thank you for joining us today. It's your first Remembrance Day as the Veterans Affairs Minister. And as you pause to reflect on today, what will be going through your mind?
Well, thank you. Yes, it is my first Remembrance Day as Minister, and it's being in the nation's capital, being with a larger audience of individuals that are here, a larger group of veterans and serving members. It's very meaningful. There's a lot of emotion coming up, and I think for myself, I'm going to be reflecting on the individuals that I remember hearing about when I was growing up, of veterans that served in the First, Second, and Korean Wars, but also many of the veterans I'm meeting today that are the modern veterans who may have served in Afghanistan, Persian Gulf, or are currently over in Latvia right now.
Of course, I'm sure you must know when Prime Minister Carney asked you to be the minister, great responsibility. All veterans are looking to the Veterans Affairs Minister. You're also the Associate Minister of National Defense, and the Auditor General had a report this fall that said we're not doing what we should be doing on housing for our current serving members. And I wonder if you could give us a sense of what the government might be planning to do to improve the housing stock on our bases.
Well, we are very committed to making the investments in our Canadian forces right now, and also the investments in veterans to make sure that we support them, because when they sign up and they serve our country, we have a responsibility to care for them after their release. We know that Minister McGuinty has been out traveling around, visiting bases across the country. I've had the opportunity to visit a couple. We are making the investments so that we are taking care and equipping our service members with what they need to be successful.
And one thing I've noticed about Veterans Affairs, your department, you probably noticed this too, you do a lot of surveys of veterans to make sure you're providing the service you'd like, and yet there's about 40% of veterans that still say they're having trouble adjusting to civilian life. And I wonder if there might be some initiatives you could highlight about how your department is helping veterans adjust to civilian life?
Certainly, thank you so much. We are committed to ensuring that each veteran with their unique experiences has access to the service and programs that are going to best meet their needs and the benefits that they're eligible for. So we are continually checking in with veterans, engaging with them, taking that feedback and continually improving and our service delivery. You know, our budget that was announced last week shows an investment of over $184 million, which we're going to be making so that we can make sure benefits are delivered in a timely and accessible fashion for veterans so that we can support them.
Great. Minister Jill McKnight, Veterans Affairs Minister, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
And of course, Donna, one of the big focuses for services to veterans in this day and age, we had many younger veterans, Afghanistan veterans, mental health services, and that too was underlined in the budget. Donna.
Yeah, it's so important, David. We're looking back, of course, remembering those who have served and died in the service of their country, but there's so much to be done for the people who are currently serving, right? And that is such an important piece, especially with this commitment now to invest and modernize the military.
Yep, 100%, and that is the pressure that is on Minister McKnight, as it was on previous Veterans Affairs ministers. We do see this sort of cycle at every Auditor General's report that I referenced, that it's not housing or it's the mental health services, and you know, our veterans, many of them can't wait. They need services today, they need services now, and as I said to Minister McKnight, she has a big responsibility given her by Prime Minister Carney.
Yeah, all right, David Aiken, thank you. As we watch the Vice-Regal Party assemble there, the Prime Minister and the Silver Cross Mother, the Chief of the Supreme Court, let's listen to the start of the service, beginning with O Canada.
Avec les membres de la musique centrale des Forces armées canadiennes et du Chœur des enfants d'Ottawa.
Now, the trumpeter will play the last post. That signals the end of the 2 minutes of silence. The guns will continue to fire 21 times, though, and now the lament is performed by the piper. This is the trumpeter's rouse. We were expecting a fly past at this point. There often is for Remembrance Day. It was supposed to be 4 CF-18 aircraft, but that was canceled because we're told of the low cloud cover. It's just, I think, just below freezing in Ottawa, a bit of low cloud there, so the CF-18s are not flying. Now the act of remembrance.
Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Ils ne vieilliront pas comme nous.
They shall not grow old as we that are left. Age shall not bury them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Agago yung sok tawar dia negati. Sekinir nipilakpat, talilakpat, ulakut sekinir nuilakpat, iqawmanak po. Iqawmanak tavut pigul jangi tavut.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez vous asseoir. Nous sommes profondément reconnaissants d'être
We are
réunis en ce lieu
deeply
solennel
grateful
de souvenir.
to be together in this solemn place
And
of
so we
remembrance.
pause today with those around Canada and the world, each of us coming from different perspectives, faiths, and traditions, to recall together the sacrifices of those who have served before us, and to be inspired by their example of dedication, of courage, and of pride. Nous rendons hommage à ceux et celles qui ont répondu à
paying
l'appel de la
homage
bataille,
to those
qui ont,
who answered the
qui ont
call
été
to battle
marqués par ce qu'ils ont vu,
and who were marked
entendu et
by
fait
what they
au
saw,
nom de la
heard,
liberté
and
et
did
de l'espoir.
in the name of liberty and
Que
hope.
cette période où tous les Canadiennes et Canadiennes sont unis dans
May
la
this period of
solidarité
time where all
apporte un
Canadians
peu
are
de paix
united in
et d'apaisement
solidarity
à ces
bring
personnes
some
et à
peace
leurs
to
familles.
these people and to their families.
Today reminds us that life and peace are fragile. While we take time to recall our past, let us also recognize the progress and potential that those past sacrifices won for us. And let us look ahead with hope to the promise of a more just society. Nous rendons hommage aux familles des membres des Forces armées canadiennes.
To the families
Ils
of
ont
the
donné
armed
d'eux-mêmes.
forces members
Ils ont aimé
who gave
et
of
perdu.
themselves,
Et sans leur
who
soutien,
loved
le service de
who
notre
they loved
personnel en
and lost,
uniforme
and without
sera
our support
impossible.
for our
And we
uniform
offer our gratitude
uniformed
to the
personnel,
Silver Cross Mother
this wouldn't be
and
impossible.
all the families who themselves bear the scars of military service. Their loss is our loss, and we join them in remembrance today and all days. Nous soutenons tous les dirigeants de notre
We
pays et
support
leur
all
dévouement
leaders of our country,
continuent à
and
faire
their
notre
devotion
monde un endroit meilleur.
makes our world a better
En leur
place.
demandant de continuer à servir avec
I ask
intégrité,
them to continue
courage
to serve with
et
integrity,
sagesse.
courage, and wisdom.
On this 25th anniversary of the tomb of the unknown soldier, we ponder here the mystery of life and death and pause to thank those who never came home. Puisse ce lieu solennel et tout ce qu'il représente nous
May
encourager
this
toujours à œuvrer pour la
solemn
paix dans un monde
place
souffrant.
remind us that we always want to
Lest
work
we
towards
forget.
peace in a suffering
N'oublions
world,
jamais.
lest we forget.
And now the Ottawa
Ladies and
Children's
gentlemen,
Choir
the
will
Vice
sing
Regal
In
Party will
Flanders
now begin
Fields.
placing their wreaths. Mesdames et messieurs, le cortège vice-royal déposera maintenant leur couronne.
And there you see the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court laying a wreath on behalf of the Governor General, who is unable to be here today. And we'll see the Silver Cross Mother also lay a wreath on behalf of her own son, Randy Payne, and all mothers who have lost children in the service of the military. is the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, laying a wreath, accompanied by his wife, Diana Fox Carney. As we continue to watch those wreaths being laid, let's go back to Dean Oliver, who is the Museum Services Director at No History. Dean, 2025 marks the 75th anniversary of the start of what is sometimes known as the Forgotten War, the Korean War. More than 26,000 Canadians served, more than 500 of them were killed over 3 years. And it happened very soon after the Second World War had ended. Remind us what the Korean War was about and what we should remember about it.
It was, yes, indeed, sometimes referred to as the Forgotten War, not entirely truthfully, but understandably by those who often came back and felt that they had served in the shadow of the Second World War. Korea had been occupied by various Allied powers after the defeat of Japan in 1945 by American forces in the south of the peninsula and Soviet forces in the north. And over the intervening years between 1945 and 1950, those positions sort of hardened into a Western-leaning south, a democratic-leaning south, and a totalitarian communist-leaning north. And the north invaded in late June of 1950. I was struck by the Prime Minister's comment that remembrance is vigilance, and if we had had that in mind in 1949, we might have been a bit more prepared for what happened in Korea in 1950. Very quickly, the Western forces mobilized, though we thought for a time that perhaps Korea would not be able to stand against the northern onslaught. Canada at first committed warships, some of them in refit on the west coast of Canada and not yet ready to go, but they were quickly pressed into service, followed by an air transport squadron, and then the first of several rotations of infantry, the first of them arriving in December of 1950. Someone said, I think it was a Canadian diplomat, that 1950 was not a good year if you were in favor of a small defense budget, because at the same time that we were mobilizing for Korea after the formation of NATO in April of 1949, we were also sending forces back to Europe. So very quickly in that year, we were sending two very large 5,000 plus-ish size forces, about half of those in both from had former service in the Second World War, and the leadership of each substantial. But who knew that the war would last 3 years? And the nature of the fighting, Donna, was a little bit like the First World War, except in the hills. Lots of infantry fighting, extraordinarily large role for Canadian combat engineers and the artillery in grueling, often hand-to-hand fighting across the hilltops up and down the 38th parallel to an armistice in July of 1953, and still no lasting peace in the peninsula, so our commitment to the Republic of Korea in the south in 2025 still remains.
Yeah, North Korea, South Korea still technically at war. Dean, are there parallels, do you think, to today in terms of the scale of the military buildup during peacetime?
Yes, there are quite large ones, I would argue. Only a few times in what would be called quote-unquote peacetime has Canada faced a very, very large and fairly urgent rededication to defense spending and preparedness. The 1950s was the first, and until now probably the greatest of those periods, when we had hoped there to be, to use a 1980s phrase, a great peace dividend, and we did demobilize rapidly after 1945, but the Guzenko affair and evidence of Soviet espionage and their pressure on places like Norway and Iran, and then on South Korea, led to remobilization both for the conflict in Korea and for NATO. A second time was towards the end of the 1980s, when we began to remobilize quickly in the face of pretty serious evidence of Soviet rearmament and expansionist aims in Europe. And this in the last year or two would be the third time that a major peacetime rededication to defense and security has occurred in Canada. We'll see a federal budget or two in, how deep and how big, but it is truly significant. And a reminder perhaps that the world is not, if ever, as peaceful as we wish it to be.
We've had the benefit, you and I, of living through a period of peace, but that, as you say, is never assured. I want to change the subject a little bit to bring you to talk about something that's a little personal for you. Someone you're remembering today who had the same passion for history as you do, and for many years was involved in Remembrance Day ceremonies. His name was Tim Cook. He was a chief historian at the Canadian War Museum, a prolific author, and Tim died last month. Tell us about him and the difference he made, his legacy.
Oh, thank you for the question. I'm happy and honored to do it. I had known Tim for about 25 years. He was one of the first of a core of extraordinarily talented and dedicated public historians that we hired back at the War Museum when we were just transforming from the Sussex facility into what you now see downtown. Tim had come out of the Library and Archives Canada, and he exceeded every reasonable expectation of an organization or a group of peers or a boss in terms of his career and his career trajectory. Many obituaries and appreciations of Tim have come out in the few weeks since he's unfortunately passed. It would have been his 54th birthday yesterday, November 10th. But he was an extraordinary academic, a very gifted and dedicated scholar. He knew the records of most of the major collections in which evidence was held by like the back of his hand. But he also was very focused on kind of eviscerating the gap between academic history and public history. And I'm paraphrasing something he said to me once, but it was a comment about and if it was going to be told to the public, everything needed to be true. And he practiced that in his life. But in addition to being an accomplished writer and a wonderful colleague, he was also a great motivator. And he believed passionately in speaking to people about the importance of history and remembrance and telling other people's stories as best he was able. And so I would say he probably has had an outsized influence on public history and military history in Canada, like possibly no other historian in the last two generations, with the possible exception, I guess, of Jack Granatstein. But the outpouring of support for Tim is just testament to what a great person he was and a great character. And I would also say just a wonderful friend and colleague for those of us who knew him best in his many capacities, including as a wonderful colleague at the War Museum.
54 years, far too young. Thank you for honoring him in your words, and my condolences to you and to all of those who looked up to him and valued his encyclopedic knowledge so much. David Aiken, I think you're one of those people. It takes people like Tim Cook to make history come alive, to remind us why ceremonies like this matter, and I know that you knew Tim Cook as well.
Yes, not as well as Dean did, but I would see him at parliamentary dinners over the years or at museum events, and always was interested to strike up a conversation because I was a fan. I loved reading his work, and you know what Dean was saying is his scholarship was impeccable, but he was a great writer. And even though we can tell a lot of histories of any conflict, any war through what they call great men, stories of great men, the Roosevelts, the Churchills, the Kings, and so on, one of the great virtues of the books that Tim wrote, it was bottom up. It was about fighting men through diaries and sometimes interviews and letters, and his research was just impeccable. So it's very sad that he's passed away, 54 years old, as Dean said, been fighting Hodgkin's disease, and yet managed to write 19 books. And as Dean will know, they're doorstoppers. He didn't write short, he wrote long. And you know, Donna, if I can make a couple of recommendations, this from my library, because as I said, I've been reading over the years. There's a history of the First World War. It's called At the Sharp End, Canadians Fighting the Great War, 1917 to 1918. At the Sharp End. Look that up at your library or buy it for Christmas. And then on the Second World War, he's got a 2-volume history, The Necessary War, about Canada's military in that conflict. But there's lots of great books if you want to start exploring what Tim Cook wrote and contributed and will be remembered for.
Well, thanks, David. I appreciate that. And let's talk about a little bit about what we're seeing and where people are gathered today. Each year this ceremony is centered around the National War Memorial in Ottawa. It was first unveiled in 1939. It was 25 years ago that the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier was added to it. Thousands of Canadian soldiers died in the First and Second World Wars, and their bodies to this day have never been identified. So David, tell us why and how it was decided that tragic fact would be recognized.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most remarkable aspects of the entire sort of what I'll call campus, I guess, here around the National War Memorial. The memorial itself is stunning, designed by Walter Aylward, who did the designs at Vimy Ridge. And then in 2000, this was when when John Chrétien was Prime Minister, in 2000 the decision was made to add to this memorial with the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And the Canadian Forces went to a battlefield cemetery near Vimy Ridge, where, if you've ever been there, you see lots and lots of cemeteries with the white crosses that say, "Here lies a soul known unto God." There are lots of men who died in certainly in the First World War and also in the Second, that they couldn't be identified. So the remains of one of those soldiers was transferred in 2000, came here to Canada in May of that year. The coffin of the remains of this soldier lay in state in the House of Commons for 3 days, and then was buried here in this beautiful sarcophagus that has got Canadian granite and some beautiful designs through it. And I've got the good fortune that my office looks down on this particular memorial, and any day of the year, if I'm at my window and I see visitors to Ottawa, they want to come to the National War Memorial, but they all stop in front of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. It's where people, as we see right now, want to take a minute and pause and reflect on sacrifice. Just one word on the tomb, unknown, and that's it. And you'll see that later today, Donna, is that I'm looking around right now at the crowd, and it's a terrific turnout for weather that's kind of cold and gray. And at the end of this ceremony, what you'll see is everyone, or a lot of people, will gather around the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, take off their poppy and lay it down there, pause and reflect. And by the end of the day, that the tomb will be festooned with hundreds and hundreds of poppies. It's really quite the center of reflection at this National War Memorial.
All right, David Aiken, thank you. Let's check in with Mackenzie Gray, who is also there in the crowd. Mackenzie, you spoke with some veterans who've gathered today for what's, I'm sure, a very poignant day. What did they have to say?
Hi, Donna. Yeah, we did speak with some veterans earlier today. Just behind David at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, that's where the VIP is for some older veterans who were here. We caught up with John Priest. He's 99 years old. He served in the Second World War. He got shot in the Netherlands during the war, but he was even thinking about folks who he lost. Let's take a listen to what Mr. Priest and some other veterans we spoke with had to say.
I have one or two we often talk about. I visited him in Europe at the time he was killed there. Jesuits was his name, a nice Ukrainian boy. And I often think about him when I come by here, because he gave me a shovel when I was going into the line. He was a close friend and killed the next morning. And I don't like thinking about those nights.
It's in memory of those who have fallen, in supporting my two boys who are currently in the Navy, and because I spent 41 years in the Navy. So it's my feelings for all those who serve and those who gave the utmost. So that's why I'm here. I've been coming down here since I was a young officer and living in Ottawa, so I'd never miss it.
Oh, it's good. Imagine being in Canada at 17 years old, you can't take a drink, and they send you to Germany for 2 years. You come back to Canada and you still can't take a drink. Yeah. So that's the way this country operates sometimes, but it's still good.
One of my favorite parts of the day is coming up in just a couple minutes, Donna. After the ceremony is done, there's a veterans parade where Mr. Priest and others will come through here and get a hero's welcome from the crowd.
The ceremony is continuing at the National War Memorial in Ottawa, but our live broadcast is approaching its end. I'd like to get a final thought from Dean Oliver, the Museum Services Director at Know History. Dean, you're always so thoughtful and knowledgeable. Give us your final thoughts about this moment, this ritualized moment where grief and gratitude coexist?
Oh, well, that's very well said. I'm not sure I could add to that, Donna. That was really beautiful. I'm always grateful to be here, to be with you, old friends now after many years. But I guess as I was thinking about the end of the war and what we call the Veterans Charter, I was thinking about the role that veterans played, not in uniform, but out of uniform, both First World War veterans and Second and Korean War veterans, in crafting the Canada that we now have. The vast majority of those very forward-thinking civil servants and dedicated Legion members and others who created things like the Veterans Charter and benefits of land and the family allowance, most of those were actually First World War veterans. And many of those who ran those programs in the years afterward, who explored the North and mapped the coasts, were also veterans. And so I guess there is the life that many people, including Tim and my old friend Serge Derflinger, talk about, the veterans' impact on Canada, is so much longer and so much greater than those years in which they served honorably in our name.
Dean, thank you so much for your thoughts and for being with us today. As always, so appreciated. The ceremony in Ottawa will continue for a little bit. Others will take place across the country today. But for those of you watching us on global television, it's time for us to say goodbye. You can continue to watch the Remembrance Day service at the National War Memorial in Ottawa on our streaming platforms. I'd like to thank our correspondents, David Aiken, Mackenzie Gray, and of course, Dean Oliver from Know History, for their thoughts and insight today. And to you, our viewers, for sharing this moment with us. Thank you for joining us and for taking a few minutes of your day to remember and reflect. I'm Donna Friesen. I'll be back with the day's news later on Global National. For now, thanks for watching.
This has been a Global News special presentation.
Thank you for your attendance at today's National Remembrance Day ceremony. Today, as a grateful nation, we stand in collective remembrance of all who have fallen in the military service of Canada. May we never forget. Please stay in position for the march-off and departure of the Vice-Regal Party. We will announce when you may enter the site. Merci d'être parmi nous à l'occasion de la cérémonie nationale du Jour du Souvenir. Aujourd'hui est l'occasion où notre nation reconnaissante exprime à l'unisson le souvenir de ceux et celles qui sont morts au service de notre pays. N'oublions jamais. Veuillez rester en place pendant le défilé de sortie et la sortie du cortège vice-royal. Nous annoncerons quand vous pourrez accéder au site.
Remembrance Day Parade will march past in column of route. Veterans leading. Move to the right in column of route. Right. March.
Finally, each evening over the past 2 weeks, During this year's National Hockey Campaign, the Royal Canadian Legion Hockey Command has been honored to present its virtual hockey club. It can be seen this year on the Senate building. There will be a continuing presentation this evening from 6:30 p.m. to midnight. The hockey club is also displayed outside the National Arts Center until midnight this evening. Finalement, nous tenons à mentionner les dernières semaines de notre campagne nationale de cette année. La Légion royale canadienne a eu l'honneur et le privilège de nous offrir chaque soirée une projection spéciale. Celle de sa public virtuelle sur l'édifice du Sénat. Il y aura une présentation de clôture en soirée à 18h30. L'appui de public sera aussi sur la façade du centre national.
This is my son. Three generations, yes.
You own it.
Yes.
Nice to meet you. Yeah. You were in
engineers.
Engineers.
Yes.
103. So you've seen a few prime ministers over the years. Yes. I'm just the latest. There's a few more left. A few more to come. I don't fancy meeting with you, Canadian. Going to be all day. Hopefully next year.
Cameron. Bye. Inward! Turn! Ball! Out!
Bon Noël puis bon été.
Out! Quick!
Slide. Where's slide? Slide. Slide.
Are you in charge? Back it up. Gotta back it up here, guys.
Do the four winners want to step behind?
Okay, you guys are gonna have to.
Do you want to just take a picture right now?
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You want to vote it?
Shoes.
Ladies Ladies and gentlemen, the site is now open for placing poppies and wreaths. Mesdames et messieurs, le site est maintenant ouvert pour placer vos coquelicots et vos couronnes. Thank you for being here today. Merci.